Hi guys. On Thanksgiving I made 2 pie crusts and I just kept this in the fridge. So today we're going to be making my mom's famous quiche. In May I lost my mom and this was one of our favorite meals that she made. It was a special treat for us because it has a lot of ingredients that we didn't always have on hand. So today I'm going to be showing you how I can whip up a really delicious quiche. This has been in the fridge, so it's a little bit hard to roll out, but it's real flaky when you have it in the fridge. So the first thing you'll do is you'll roll out a pie crust, or you can use a pre-made pie crust. And you'll want to turn your oven on to 400 because your oven is going to slightly bake that crust before you put your filling in. So what we're going to do is we'll have our crust, we'll poke holes in the bottom of our crust, and then we'll pre-bake it for a few minutes. I'll be specific in a minute, but your pie crust needs to bake at 400 with no filling in there. Now I made a pecan pie last week and I had a little trouble getting that crust in my dish. So this time I tried something different. I put saran wrap on the counter so that I could lift it up a little bit easier. We'll see how it goes. This is always the most difficult part about making a pie for me, is getting that crust in the pan. That turned out really actually, whoops, better. So all you have to do if it cracks, it's not a big deal. Your room temperature hand is going to help meld that together. So can you come over and show the cracks? So if you get a crack, like here's a crack, your hands are warm and they'll just kind of press them together and everything works out just fine. So I'm just going to take the crust and gently press it where I lost part of my crust and get it all worked out. So I used to have a lot of stress with pie crust, but it always turns out just fine. Even if it has a big crack, I just mend it up like this and I don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. We're gonna fill this with such tasty ingredients, and all the cracks are going to be right now fixed before we bake it. Okay, so I dropped a big piece on the floor, but I have enough here to work it out. I have a really great pie crust recipe from a really dear family member. Grandma Edith was a beautiful baker and she taught me many tricks. And so I'll link her famous pie crust recipe in the description. I'll try to do that. And I'll also include this quiche recipe. So anyway, this is how you kind of get this pre-ready. I will be poking it with a fork. My mom always poked the crust with a fork and then pre-baked it for a few minutes. So if you have a regular pie crust from like, not a regular, if you have a store-bought freezer pie crust, you would follow the directions on that for pre-baking it for a few minutes. But we're going to be baking the quiche for a long time, so you're not going to bake it totally. Let me tell you how many minutes. I've got it right here in my mom's recipe. Okay, so I'm going to kind of crimp this down real quick and cut off any really long extra pieces. I'm not being too picky with it. And I'm pulling off any extra pieces. Okay, so I've got my little thing. I've got all my little cracks kind of tapped out so that when I put my egg filling in there, nothing's gonna leak out. And then I'm just gonna read my mom's recipe because it's really fun for me to read this recipe from 2005. It says, poke with a fork and bake an empty pie shell 400 degrees for 5 to 8 minutes. So that's what you would do with a frozen crust or with a homemade crust. poke the bottom, and then 400 for 5 to 8 minutes. Okay, in 5 to 8 minutes, we'll take that out and we will fill it. So now what we're gonna do is make the filling. And I've been making lots of freezer meals, so I have a lot of dishes back there. Try to ignore those for now. Okay, so let's set the timer for 5 to 8 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and do 6 minutes. My oven's not quite reheated. Okay, so this is the filling. Are you ready? The first thing you wanna do is you wanna crumble already cooked bacon. So I'm making a 10-inch quiche, which is a large size. If you're doing 9-inch, you don't need 10 pieces of bacon. But while I was making lunch today, I went ahead and 400 degrees oven. I used a piece of foil. Can you see that? I put a piece of foil down and I put my raw bacon all on one cookie sheet. And I baked it until it was done and crispy. Then I let it sit on this towel, and you're gonna want that already done. So I already pre-cooked that. I've measured 3/4 cup mayo, 3/4 cup milk. I'm gonna put those in my bowl. I have 3 green onions chopped finely. Okay. I have milk. I have 3 eggs right here. I'm gonna go ahead and break my eggs in a different bowl just in case I get any kind of shell. I can not ruin my thing or stress out about looking for it. I always just crack it in a separate bowl, check real quick, and then boom, it's fine. There's no shells. Okay, so then we have a 12-ounce package of Swiss cheese, and that is just right for a 10-inch quiche. I used my whisk earlier, so I don't have my whisk. Okay. So you're going to basically whisk this. My dishwasher says it's done. Let's see if there's a whisk in here. I use a lot of whisks. You're gonna whisk that mayonnaise, egg, and milk really well. I'm making this for dinner tonight, so my kids are gonna be excited because it's fancy. So I whisk it until the mayonnaise is really combined well. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sprinkle in the flour. And I've got 3 tablespoons of flour already measured to save time. So I'm gonna whisk that. I've got my 12 ounces of Swiss cheese. It's a whole block grated. I've got 3 green onions grated or slightly chopped. And then I'm gonna break up the bacon at the last minute. So I'll do that. So this is a little bit lumpy because there's flour, mayonnaise. I wanna make sure to whisk that well. This is not my best whisk, but it works. My best whisk is my Pampered Chef little doohickey whisk, but I made a bunch of other things today with it. So we'll just work this one out. Okay, so can you zoom in a little bit on that? Can you come up? So this is how you want it to look nice and smooth before you start adding these chunky ingredients. Okay, so this is milk, mayo, 3 eggs, and flour, okay? So now we're gonna add all of our grated cheddar, or not cheddar, Swiss. You can use different cheeses, but this is my favorite, and this is the only way I like it. This is the only way I'm gonna do it. My kids like it, I love it, it's important to me. Okay, so then I'm gonna stir those, and you can see that thickened up quite a bit, right? So this is gonna be our pie filling for that pre-baked crust that's got 2 more minutes to bake, okay? All right. So the last thing we need to do, that only took 2 minutes to do that. The last thing we want to do is to break up our bacon. So I'm going to take my bacon and crumble it over the bowl. And there's other fancier ways to do this. You could smash it in a baggie if you want, but I might sneak a little bite of bacon as I'm doing this. I might save a little bite for my camera girl too. So we just want bacon flavoring throughout, and bacon is really strong, but everybody loves bacon in my family, so we're gonna make sure we have, this is basically 1 package of bacon, but I'm gonna leave out 2 pieces for me and my camera girl. Okay, so we've got our bacon in there. I'm gonna wash my hands and then stir that up. So this is basically a savory pie, and you're gonna have a tasty, you've got lots of protein in there. You got your green veggie, a little bit of green veggie. I would serve this baked up with a salad on the side. And I'm sure that we'll be fighting over this tonight. So that's the filling right here. And let's check on our pie crust. It says 15 seconds, so let's check it. Can you check on it? Let's pull it out and see. Okay, so you can tell that it's slightly cooking a little bit. I'm give it another minute or 2. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just tell you the next steps. Okay, so the last step that you're gonna do is after it comes out, you're supposed to cool your pie crust. So we're gonna run out of time. After you cool it, you pour in these ingredients in a cooled shell. You'll bake at 350 for 40 minutes or until you insert a knife in the middle and it comes out clean. You can put any number of things in this quiche. This is just what we like to put in, but you could have like well-drained spinach or well-drained, let's see, my mom said crab meat, or you could do vegetarian, which is like really well-drained spinach, because the liquid will get kind of runny in there. But you don't have to put any bacon. We just like bacon. Okay, so my shell will cool. I'll pour in my pie filling here, and then I'll bake it 40 minutes, and we'll have a delicious quiche for dinner. Thanks, guys. I hope that helps you. Have a blessed day.